We have a problem in today's gaming industry, and this has been a problem that has been seeping into every single game that comes out on the market that's AAA. This problem started all the way back in the late 2000s, when microtransactions were first introduced to games, and publishers became more concerned about appealing to shareholders than they did about actual consumers. And as you can see with the recent Battlefront 2 from EA and DICE, appealing to shareholders hasn't really worked all that well for them. I'm Guns and welcome to What's Wrong With, or WWW the series, where we take a look at what's wrong with a current video game or developer or publisher in the industry of video games today, and we try to break down semantically what they've been doing in 15 minutes or less. And while I started off this video about talking why Battlefront 2 seems to be a misstep for EA and that pleasing shareholders isn't exactly the smart thing to do, that you should be pleasing consumers instead, because as it turns out, consumers can hurt your share price worse than anybody, this video isn't actually about Battlefront 2, DICE, or EA. This video is about Destiny, and how Bungie was one of the last great studios that were more prone to appealing to consumers than they were shareholders. As of Destiny 2, it's become fairly obvious they don't give a shit about consumers, and they are completely untransparent until we catch them in the lie. How do we know that? Well, let's get started with the EXP throttling. Yes, Bungie was caught throttling experience from players so that they could no longer earn bright engrams as fast as they could level themselves. Essentially, it was time gated no matter what you did, because the system that they had in place would throttle your experience down. Now, the player base caught them in this lie, and Bungie appropriately said, "This system's not been working the way we anticipated." It wasn't a, "Hey, we're sorry we lied to you guys about throttling your experience." It was, that wasn't working as we intended. Which, in my opinion, first off, is a bullshit statement. The statement should be, "Dear player base, we're sorry. We should be transparent from now on about our engaging systems and not have a manipulative experience throttling system in the game in the first place to incentivize our players to buy more bright engrams." Because, let's be real, that's insidious all on its own to have a throttling experience system to incentivize players to do that. Then, not to mention on top of that, people remembered, oh yeah, didn't they sell experience boosters with Kellogg's Pop-Tarts? Now, people are very, very quick to bring up the fact that on the box it does read, "This experience booster does not stack with other effects," but the fact still remains, if I put on a Kellogg's Pop-Tarts experience booster and I was under no other effects of experience boost, I would still have my experience throttled by Destiny 2's system, meaning Destiny 2 was using a lie to promote Destiny 2 the game on Pop-Tarts to people and children and anybody else that bought Pop-Tarts in that time span. They were using a direct lie, a provable lie, as marketing material. And that's just the start of our woes with Bungie and Destiny 2. Let's talk about the economy in the game. Now, any good economy is driven by players. Players are the driving force of your economy. Players make the money, players decide how much money they make by actively engaging with the systems for long periods of time, and players find ways to optimize the system of economy in order to make the most gains out of it. That economy doesn't exist in Destiny 2. Instead, we have a token system, which randomly generates prizes for you out of a engram into your hands. And as Deej, Bungie's community manager, said, too much RNG can create a bad experience for players. And he's dead on the money. Too much RNG created a terrible experience for players in terms of what rewards we got. But let's go a step further into the real world to make you realize how bad this token system is. Let's say you work for an employer and you have a day job like most of us do, working 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day. Let's say that when you first, obviously, like a real world application would be if you work 40 hours a week, you get a paycheck, and with this paycheck, you buy things like your utilities, such as water, food, heat, air conditioning, electricity, internet. You get a TV for entertainment, or an Xbox, or some games. You get a PC, maybe a new cell phone. You save up, you can get a nice car. You save up longer or take a loan out, you can get a house, right? Now, loans aside, because let's be honest, no one really wants to work in loan management into any kind of player economy. Real economy where you actually earn money and pay things out to get new things like, cars, phones, TVs, necessities like food and water. Let's say instead of earning money to buy those things, your employer decides they're not going to give you a paycheck because they know what you want more than you know what you want. Your employer decides, hey, this week you can have a cell phone. Next week, you can have a TV. You don't get 2 things or 3 things, you only get 1 thing. Next week, you can have your utilities paid so you can turn on the electricity and the heat in the house and get some running water. Next week, they decide to buy you food. This is the first time they've gotten you food in 4 weeks. Well, you really need food. Next week, though, they buy you a house, but they still haven't paid utilities, so now you have a big empty shell to live in. And then the next week they get you another phone. Well, you already had a phone and you really want some food and the water back on and maybe some heat and electricity, but instead now you have 2 phones. And the next week they give you another phone. And then they give you another phone. And then they give you another phone. You see the problem with this RNG system? You're not getting what you need as a person by the work that you're putting in. So why are you putting in work? Why are you putting in the work if you're not getting what you want? It's not worth your time and it's not worth your effort. You're better trying to get those things for yourself without them. And that is Destiny 2's token system in a nutshell. But there are many more issues than just the token system. However, the token system is a driving force of Destiny 2's problems, that's for sure. Another reason why it's such a large problem is the fact that most of the armor and the weapons inside Destiny 2 are uninspiring reskins of a copy of an original sometimes. Usually it's just another copy. So many armors are just reskins of reskins, and people are even worried about reskin content with a new wing of the raid. However, we are assured that it is entirely new content, and I am going to side with Bungie on this one. It's another wing of the raid. It's going to be newer content for us to do. It's not going to be the same thing, but that aside, most weapons and most armor in this game are reskin. I would say 50% of it's original and the other 50% of it's reskinned. So they did half the work and they expect all the reward. I'm sorry, Bungie, do you really think we're that stupid? Speaking of stupid, I do think they think we're that stupid, because Bungie doesn't understand their audience. This has been one of the clearest things to me lately. Their audience that they have no understanding of, they're attempting to draw these lines in between a casual and a hardcore audience. And the only difference between a casual and a hardcore audience is that one plays less hours in a day. Casual players aren't stupid. They understand what's going on. They get these complex systems. Sometimes they don't always have the time to actively engage in these complex systems, but that is a decision that they have to make as part of their life. I've certainly been there, especially during college and some of the early years of my internship as an engineer. I didn't get to choose what I wanted. I had to make priorities for my life. It's the same thing with how we spend our time in video games. Some players just don't have that luxury, unfortunately. However, all players experience content relatively the same. We get to see all the same content, especially with how Bungie is approaching their modeling. See, somebody that's 305 can be 305 without touching the raid or the Nightfall. And somebody that's 305 that's done the raid in the Nightfall feels cheated out and unincentivized for doing the raids or the Nightfall because Bungie has devalued their content. The thing is, with this devaluing of content to appeal to the casual audience more often, which, if I'm sorry you don't get it by now, Bungie, there isn't a casual audience. Everybody's an in-depth player of Destiny. Some just play it less time than others. But what this does is it makes people feel unrewarded. Let me ask you, if you work in an office with friends that play Destiny, when you're playing Destiny, and you and the guys decide to get together one weekend and you're going to go do the raid, like let's say you went and you did Vault of Glass during the Age of Triumph, okay? And you got the rewards for Vault of Glass during the Age of Triumph. Don't you feel special and unique because these raid pieces of armor are pretty high light level? They're up there. They're insanely unique with special effects on them and ornaments. They have unique effects to make you do the raid better next time. See, that's the value in the content right there. You went and you cleared content, and it gives you more options and ways to do things that give you better rewards the next time you get around to doing the content. If you and the guys get together and you do the raid now, you get a piece of gear, maybe, out of the last 2 encounters of the raid. Most of the time you just get tokens, which, oh, by the way, the token system pushes out these purple raid pieces at current light level, not higher than light level. So you don't actually gain any real thing off of doing the raid in terms of sustaining or increasing your light level. So they devalued content and made it feel like it's not worth playing. Then they lopped off a bunch of things from Destiny 1 in Destiny 2 to say that, oh, well, there's balancing issues and we made it easier for us to balance, including subclass systems and random weapon rolls. Now, I'll say this first on random weapon rolls before we move on. Are random weapon rolls a perfect system as an in-game system? No. Was it the only in-game system that we had? Yes. Did Bungie take it away and then give us no alternate in-game system? Yes. Because they took it away, we have no in-game system at all. I'm not saying random weapon rolls are the solution, but I'm saying we need something, and we currently have nothing. That's the mistake that Bungie made. And pruning classes, simplifying them. Listen, World of Warcraft made this change quite some time ago, and yes, I'm going to compare it directly to World of Warcraft. Players said they hated this change. They missed their talent trees so much that classic WoW is becoming a thing, like a guaranteed thing, because people want to go back and live those days when they felt like World of Warcraft was a better game. And in terms of making it easier to balance for yourself, listen, Bungie, this reasoning makes zero sense. Video games aren't meant to be easy. No one gives you a pat on the back because something was easy for you to do. The best video games and the best things in life are the most intensely labored, the most loved, and the most hardly fought for, as a video game or as anything in life. If you're not doing that, what you're producing probably isn't worth the reward that you're expecting at the end. So now what? Bungie's been caught in 2 lies to their consumer base and their player base. Can we actually trust Bungie anymore? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Even if Bungie is listening to our feedback currently on how to change the game for it to work in Curse of Osiris, Destiny 2 feels like a direct regression from Destiny 1. They lopped off a bunch of things in Destiny 1, gave no active replacements for us, and have been completely non-transparent with us about so many systems in the game and lied straight to our face. These things may change on Wednesday, November 29th during the live stream, and this opinion may change of how they're going to handle the game's system and future content. But based on Bungie these past 3 months, the lies they've told to their player base, their direct attempts to manipulate us, their lack of transparency with us, and according to some Bungie employees, former Bungie employees, their total lack of transparency with lower down the totem pole employees, it doesn't seem like Bungie is going to be a developer worth watching anytime soon. Not to mention their massive management shakeup in 2016, replacing several heads of department and managerial staff. That seems to have only made the problem worse, possibly due to insecurity in the workplace. For me, to talk about this is actually a pretty sad topic, personally. I started playing first-person shooters because of Bungie when Halo Combat Evolved came out. Because of Bungie, I got heavily into gaming and remained there. The company that once walked me into the light during my childhood is now taking advantage of several others during their childhood for all the wrong reasons, and those reasons are making the shareholders happy. The only thing I really want to know is, when did Bungie lose their balls? And are they ever going to attempt getting them back? I'm Guns, this has been What's Wrong with Destiny 2. Thanks for watching. GG.